G'day and welcome back to the CooCast. My name is Nick and today is the 22nd of July. It was a glorious Sunday afternoon. I don't know what you did, but I ended up going to my old mate, Dave Hunkler's engagement party to his beautiful fiancée, Mabel. Mabel, I thought it was Mabel, but then I found out it was Mabel because, she's Chilean, so they obviously have a way of pronouncing this name, which on paper just looks like Mabel. But sorry, yes. Congratulations, David and Mabel. What a great afternoon, though. Like, seriously, been out in the sun, catching up with everybody. I mean, it was just a fantastic occasion. And an engagement party is just fun to go to anyway. Like, you know, it's not quite a wedding. It's like, and I kind of like them, and I like them compared to weddings because, like, it's not formal. It's just like everybody's just getting together. We can all have, like, you know, there's always good food, but we don't have to sit down. There's nothing too formal. There's no ceremony. It's just like, hey, let's all hang out and celebrate the fact that these two people are gonna get engaged. So, I mean, gonna get married. So that's always kind of fun. And also I don't know if you guys know, but old mate Ali Little from our previous podcast is also engaged. So congratulations, Ali. Well done on getting the yes from your young lady. Congratulations, because yeah, it's just engagements all around. And obviously Justin Bieber is engaged. I only know that because I had to do a topic on that at the Trendsettings podcast. I don't particularly care that Justin Bieber is engaged, but it is a month of engagement, so congratulations to everybody getting engaged. Look, I've just been on my mind at the moment is a couple of things. Firstly, at the moment there is San Diego Comic-Con. There's been a few movies that have just, trailers that have just debuted, which I'm interested in seeing. The first one was the trailer for Shazam. DC is trying their hand at a few more movies this year, which aren't Batman or Superman related, I guess. I think Wonder Woman is coming out too, but I think they only announced that they're filming Wonder Woman 1984, I believe, which is going to be unless they've already started. I know Patty Jenkins is back to direct. Gal Gadot is definitely back. But it's basically a Wonder Woman movie set in the 1980s, which is kind of cool. I mean, everybody loves the 80s, right? And you can imagine Wonder Woman in the 80s clothes and the 80s styling and the 80s stuff like Walkmans. What's from the 80s? Walkmans. I don't know what else is from the 80s. I was born, I was living through the 80s. Come on, Nick. My mind's not this good. Anyway, but yeah, 80s Wonder Woman sounds pretty dope. But no, they haven't. I don't think they've started principal for that yet. So, but they have already got a trailer for Shazam. Which, for those who don't know, Shazam is the story of a kid. Basically, it's a story of a kid who can turn into a superhero. Like when he says the word Shazam, he turns into a superhero that looks which is a little bit like Superman to some degree. Not probably as invincible, as powerful, but has a couple of like can fly and can. Actually, I don't know what Shazam can do, but I know he's really strong and he can fly, but he has the temperament of a kid, which is kind of fun. But I always thought Shazam was a combination of a few kids, like, you know, a couple of kids joined together and they form one superhero. I thought that's what it was. A bit like Firestorm. But I could be wrong. Maybe this is just a different incarnation of that. Stars Zachary Levi, from anybody who knows him from Chuck. Lovable Chuck. I like the actor. I've sort of followed his career past Chuck, and he's a fun actor to watch. The other movie they've brought off, the other trailer that they dropped was Aquaman. And now, for anybody who is a DC fan, knows Aquaman is kind of a joke character. I don't know that anybody has kind of done it in a way that I reckon would have worked cinematically, but I gotta admit, this trailer has made me a believer.
My father was a lighthouse keeper. My mother was a queen. But life has a way of bringing people together.
We could unite our worlds one day.
Check it out. Arthur is talking to the fish.
I mean, go out and watch it, but it's really interesting because Jason Momoa, for whether you think he's the right Aquaman or not, like he's definitely not like the the type of Aquaman that they've had in the books. Like I think Aquaman in the books was almost like, I think he's an Atlantean, right? And he's supposed to have blonde hair, like he's he's a white guy. He's got the orange skin and the green pants. He doesn't look anything like that in this movie. Like it's Jason Momoa. And I think kudos to the guys at DC. They kind of went with a really cool way of making him seem believable. And that's always, to me, was the thing with comics to movies, is that you have to find a way to make the character sit in real life in a way that's not goofy, and in a way that their outfit is not impractical. Because when you see it on the screen, you want to go, oh yeah, I can totally believe that this character could exist in real life, but you don't want to make it too goofy for your audience. So I think they've kind of hit that tone pretty well. Especially Jason Momoa is a really enigmatic actor, like as in anything that he does. Like he's got a good screen presence. I reckon if he chooses the right roles, I reckon he could be right up there with The Rock in terms of just somebody who could hold a movie together. But we'll see. But yeah, Jason Momoa is in this. Amber Heard is also returning from Justice League. I think she was already, Amber Heard's character in Justice League was kind of minimal, but she's back in this as a love interest, as the sister. I'd actually not 100% sure what her character plays in this movie, but anyway, Nicole Kidman is apparently in this movie, as well as Randall Park, which is one of my favorite actors from Fresh Off the Boat, as well as like The Interview. Willem Dafoe's in this. Dolph Lundgren is in this as well, which I thought was quite hilarious. He plays somebody. Anyway, if you watch the trailer, pretty cool. They have Black Manta in it, and they kept Black Manta pretty similar to the comic books with a giant helmet, which is pretty dope. I was hoping they wouldn't change that design too much, and I'm really glad that they did. There was also rumors that I think they're basically trying to Kevin Feige. I mean, they've been trying to Kevin Feige the DC movies for a while because, they're trying to catch up to Marvel. But obviously, they just need to make movies that are just watchable at this point. I mean, I would love to see a good DC movie at this point. I know these guys are trying, and I know they're trying to play catch up. But if I can give advice to any of the DC guys who are listening, and I know nobody's listening, but if you're a DC studio exec, just make great movies. Like, don't worry about connecting them up in the cinematic universe. Actually, just loosely connect them up cinematically, but don't worry about too much about connecting these movies cinematically. Just make great movies. Just Iron Man the crap out of this thing. Like Iron Man 1, you go back and watch that movie as a standalone movie. Solid movie. Had no right to be as good as it is, but they just nailed it. And that's the reason why I think that the Marvel movies went forward. Oddly enough, Iron Man 2 was not a very good movie, but they kind of ironed out the kinks. Not every movie is a great Marvel movie, but they did all right. So, look, just make a good standalone movie. Just make it a movie that can stand by itself. Don't worry about connecting it to the rest of the universe. Just, if you want to put in small Easter eggs for the next movie, great. But just keep it solid. Like, that's why I thought Wonder Woman worked as a great movie, because it was actually a fairly solid standalone movie. I don't even think the execs even thought it was going to be as good as it was going to be. It was just a solid movie. It was fine. You know what I mean? Except for that last bit where they're fighting Ares, which was just like, do we have to v Superman? Do we have to Batman v Superman everything? Honestly. Anyway, that's my gripes aside. But yes. What else came out? There was there was another movie. Oh yeah. Glass. Glass is the next movie that came out. It was the new movie from what's his name? M. Night Shyamalan. It's his take into the comic book world. He's sort of developing his own little universe, which I'm kind of interested in. I always thought Unbreakable was one of his most underrated movies, for a couple reasons. Because it was just in a time when I think movies were starting to speed up. He refuses to speed up in any of his movies. Like, his movies are super slow. Like, his pacing is probably one of my gripes about most of his movies. But he is. I personally think he's actually a pretty good writer and a pretty good director. But I find that maybe his audiences probably aren't patient enough to stick around for some of the slow, very, very slow pacing of his movies. They're not brisk movies. They're long movies. Like, if there was a criticism for Unbreakable, I would have said that maybe he could have shaved off at least half an hour of that movie, and it still would have been, I think it would have been a better film. But, look, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm just a critic. Everybody is an armchair critic, let me qualify that. I'm not a filmmaker at this point. Maybe later, maybe I'll make a film, but right now I'm not making any films. Anybody can criticize anything I do, because it's not like I've only made one feature, guys, and it went nowhere. Well, that might change soon, but we'll see. Yeah, and Mr. Glass, I think it's just Glass. Basically, I think it's around. It's around. We open, which is really weird. The trailer opens with the three characters from his previous movies. So we open with Mr. Glass, which is Samuel Jackson's character. Then we open with what's his name, James McAvoy's character, the guy who has like the multiple personalities. And then we also have Bruce Willis sitting in the psych ward with these people. So I don't understand why all of them are sitting together. Like, that seems really weird. Like, why would they all be together? I can understand Mr. Glass, and I can understand the split dude being in the same room, but why is Bruce Willis there? Like, they shouldn't all be there together. I thought Bruce Willis was out, you know? But anyway, so it's interesting to see where this is going to go. I think M. Night Shyamalan has a beautiful and also annoying gift of subverting expectations. So he can kind of do, when he does it well, he does it really well. When he does it bad, it is so cringy. So we'll see which way this goes. I hope he's kind of learned a couple of his lessons from his previous movies. There seems to be a bit of a resurgence from M. Night Shyamalan. Split was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. He kind of kept it fairly brisk, kept everybody guessing, and made the original idea really strong. So kudos to you, M. Night Shyamalan. Looking forward to see where the rest of your movies continue to go. There's one more trailer I haven't seen, which is a new Godzilla movie that's coming up, which I think obviously, what's their name? The Universal guys are basically trying to launch their own what do you call, Monster Universe thing, which I think they tried doing with I don't know, what was the other movie? The Tom Cruise movie, The Mummy, that's right. The Mummy reboot that they were trying to do. Launch a Monster Universe. But, hey, look, I'm quite happy to them they just do a kaiju universe. I'm just looking for Godzilla to fight a Jaeger. Is that too much to ask? I hope that comes in. If they put a Jaeger into this new Godzilla movie, take all my money, seriously. I will go to town. But maybe Jaegers and Godzilla aren't maybe they're not on the table at this point. Look, guys, I'm going to take a little bit of a break to thank our sponsor for today, and that sponsor is music. So, music is everywhere, as my friend Jesse would always say. Look, we enjoy music. It's something that you can always put on, whether you like classical, whether you like rap, if you think rap is music. You know, there's something for everybody out there, and it soothes the soul. Like, I'm pretty sure there is a psalm in the Bible that says that King David used to listen to music. Oh no, it was actually Saul, King Saul, who used to listen to music to soothe his soul when he was troubled. So, look, music, it's important. Let's listen to it. Let's put on a track that we love. Look, I have to admit, I haven't listened to tons of music recently. I mean, I think the last track I was really obsessed with was This Is America, which, look, I didn't originally like it, but after all, it just grew on me, man. Like, it's just something that I just put on, and it's like, it just gets me jazzed, man. I don't know what it is about that song, but it's really cool. Also, a massive fan of one of my favorite motivational songs, I don't know what it is listening to Beastie Boys' Sure Shot. It's a bit of a long pull for anybody who doesn't listen to Beastie Boys, but yeah, great song. That flute line in that movie, in that song is amazing. Anyway, let's get back to the podcast. Look, I've got a little bit of a gripe with a couple of things at the moment, and one of the things that really bugs me, and this is from a cultural point of view, so if you guys want to tune out from this point on, I will not be offended. This is really more for my Asian brothers and sisters who are out there, because this is something that's very personal to me. So, look, you're welcome to listen along. You might not identify with everything I'm currently saying, but this is something that bugs me a lot. So, one of the things that I'm seeing out of Hollywood, I guess, is the fact that a lot of these Asian actors, and this is not the first, it's not just Asian actors in Hollywood, but a lot of Asian actors are sort of complaining that there's a lack of roles written for them in the Hollywood industry, which I totally agree with. There isn't a lot that's been written in Hollywood that really allows Asian people to be kind of, when I'm doing quote unquote, represented in the movies. And to me, that was never really a thing that bothered me growing up. I mean, it was kind of cool when we saw an Asian person in a movie, but it didn't bother me to the point where I was like, oh yeah, well, you know, what are you going to do? Like, I'm not expecting to have like a Chinese Captain Kirk or a Chinese like Luke Skywalker. I'm just, you know, if Asian people turned up on screen, it was great. If it didn't, well, it's like, well, it's not the end of the world. I still like those movies. You know what I mean? And so I would always see like people like complaining, like, and I guess these Asian actors complaining that there wasn't really enough roles to be in Asian, there wasn't enough Asian roles written in movies. And then, you know, obviously with things like Ghost in the Shell, like why did, you know, the backlash that came through was like, why it was a white lash, it was whitewashing with these movies. Like, you know, why did they cast Scarlett Johansson instead of like an Asian lady, you know, to basically lead that movie? Well, I mean, to answer that question specifically, I completely understand. Like, what were they going to do? Like, they weren't going to cast a no-name person in such a like $150 million movie. They had to cast somebody that they knew was bankable. ScarJo, I don't know, was an interesting choice. I don't know if I would have gone ScarJo. I mean, she was fine. That movie had a lot of problems though, and the reason why that movie didn't do as well had to do more with the script than anything else. Like production and everything. Weta did an amazing job creating that world. Even that, I mean, for me personally, it was really interesting watching that tank scene at the end of the movie. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but they basically recreate the tank scene from the original Ghost in the Shell film and put it towards the end of the movie, which was a real fun thing to watch. Like, it was fun watching that play out. But the problem with that scene was that there was little or no emotional weight attached to it, which is exactly why that scene at the end of the original Ghost in the Shell cartoon was really great, was because there was a lot of, it was sort of a great emotional way to end that movie, because she was struggling, that Motoko was struggling so much to basically find out who the puppet master was, and at the end of the movie, you know, gets to meet the puppet master face to face. Sorry, that's a very long tangent to just say, like, the movie was okay, but the live action movie was okay, but a lot of the problems of that movie had to do with the script, not as much with Scarlett Johansson or the effects or anything. Although I thought Scarlett Johansson's walk in Ghost in the Shell was super weird. I didn't get why she was walking the way that she was. She was just, anyway. Look, but she had every right to be. I don't even know who you would have cast in an Asian person who would have been able to hold that movie, you know, hold the movie that it did. And that's what kind of bugged me, was just like people crying like whitewashing, when it's like, well, do you even know how movies work? Like, of course you would put like an A-list actor in there. Like, if you can name me an A-list Asian actor that's that would hold that movie, I would gladly take it. But as in the moment, like, who are you gonna pick? Like, there's that chick from I can't even think of her name, the chick from Pacific Rim, the first Pacific Rim, which I thought she was a great actress, but I don't know if she's like a person who would hold a whole movie by herself together. And I can't even think of another Japanese actress. Anyway, so, but look, it's not like it's not happening. Like, you can see that they're trying to appease a lot of the base of Asian Americans who want to see, you know, I guess their identity, quote unquote, identity represented on screen, which I completely disagree with. It's like, just cast the right people for the right roles, and if it happens to be an Asian person, that's great. But if it's not, then it's not. Like, I'm okay with that. And I guess like the criticism is like, why are the Asian people not cast in the lead roles? And it's like, well, because the scripts aren't written that way. Like, let me explain to you why I think it's not as big a problem as they think it is. And this is where it has to change from the inside out for it to become something. Like, you can't just say, I want to see more Asian people on screen. You have to kind of get in there and write more roles for Asian people on screen. And who are the people who are going to write those roles? It's going to be Asian people, guys. Like, okay, Alan Yang, who is somebody I'm actually starting to realize is probably going to be one of my heroes, because he's doing it. Alan Yang is the writer, along with Aziz Ansari, who wrote for what's it called, Parks and Recs, and also wrote Master of None, which whether you love Aziz Ansari or not, it's a great show. Like, it's really well written, it's really smart, and it's you know, some of the episodes were directed by Alan himself, and he's a great director too. But smart as a whip writer, man. Like, he's a really funny writer, and I really admire it because, and the reason why I kind of admire him is because nobody cares that he's Asian. People just care that he can write good stuff. And that's what it should be, guys. It shouldn't matter what race you are. You shouldn't be decrying people. You shouldn't be crying out that people are like, oh, this is racism because they're not giving you the chance to basically do what you want to do. Alan just went and got on with it and became good at his craft. And he even says that. There's an interview that he does with Dave Chang from Major Dome, the Dave Chang podcast. And what was one of the interesting things was that I was fully expecting him to kind of talk about like the whole racism in Hollywood thing, because a lot of actors and a lot of writers kind of currently do it. But he was basically saying like, look, like you can complain about the fact that people are not giving you the opportunity to do it, or you can go out and just make those opportunities for yourself and just make really good stuff, like make it great. He was talking about too, like the new movie that's coming out, Crazy Rich Asians, which is a Hollywood produced movie with an all Asian cast. And I mean, like, we've got Constance Wu, we've got like Michelle Yeoh, we've got actually a whole bunch of other, but they're the two kind of, there's a lot of prominent Hollywood Asians in that movie. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. They're obviously going for a market that hasn't been completely tapped yet, which is the Asian American, I guess, English-fied market, which I guess would also appeal to a lot of Asians here in Australia too. It's not that big a market, guys, but you know, there are obviously enough people to make money out of it. Look, I hope it does well. Like, I'm really hoping that they turned in a good script and it was a good show. Like, that's all I'm hoping for. And I mean, Alan was basically saying like he hopes it's just a great, just makes money, which is enough because that means they can do another movie. Which is all the studios really care about, is whether the movie makes money and it doesn't, you know, give them bad press. So that's coming out, but it's happening, and that's why it always kind of annoys me. It's like, you know why that movie happened? It's because there were Asian writers who got into the writers' rooms and started writing stuff from their point of view, which is fine. And the reason why they get in there and start writing their own stuff is because they're good at doing their job. There's also, what's her name? Ali Wong Ali Wong's got this special on Netflix at the moment, which called Baby Cobra, and I think she's got another one called Hard Knock Wife, which I didn't think the second special was as good, but if you're going to check out her stuff, the first one is hilarious. Like, I was doubling over at her first comedy special. It is great. Second one I wasn't a massive fan of. I mean, it's kind of funny, but not as, I still think the first one is way funnier. Anyway, but Ali Wong, she's a good writer too. Like, she's funny. Like, and I give her that. Like, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's funny. It doesn't matter what ethnicity she is. She's just a funny girl, and she writes funny stuff. And consistently, when you watch Fresh Off the Boat, which she's like very much a part of, and I think she's part of the writing staff. That show is actually really funny. That's why that show works. It's nothing to do with the fact that they're Asian people. All the actors in the show are great actors. Like, they've managed to pick a really great set of actors. But the show is actually really funny. And that's why I kind of took a gamble on it with the first season. But consistently, every season has been really good. And that's why it's getting picked up for a 5th and a 6th season. So, guys, I'm just saying, if you're an Asian person and you want to break into the industry, you know, just make good stuff. And I mean, this could apply to anything that you do. You can always make an excuse for why you're not getting where you are. You could say that you live in Australia and breaking into the industry in Australia is really hard. Or you could say that, you know, you don't have a certain background to be able to get into, or a certain pedigree, or your English skills aren't that good. Well, you probably need good English skills, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you'd always make an excuse to not get in and do what you want to do. But ultimately, you got to understand this about this industry. It's like, no one is going to hand this to you. No one is just going to give you the opportunity and see the glint in your eye and say, you come along with me. Let's go make something beautiful together. I'm sorry, guys. You want to make something? You got to make that opportunity for yourself. And I mean that as an Asian person as well. No one has handed me anything. If I wanted to get into this industry, I had to go after it myself. I mean, I've had a lot of people kind of give me a hand up along the way, and that was amazing. Like, there's a lot of people in when I was working at Hillsong, they were just willing to take a chance to me. But I had to be available, and I had to show that I could work hard. And nobody gave me that up. Nobody made me work hard. I decided to work hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could have easily been mediocre, but I decided that I wanted to be good. And I decided that I wanted to be really good. And that's why I started learning from some of the best. And so, guys, don't give yourself an excuse to not be great. Like, that's why it pisses me off. That's why I hate it when Asian actors complain about the fact that they're not getting opportunities. It's like, dude, what are you doing to make that opportunity for yourself? There is always going to be an obstacle. There is always going to be a problem with getting to where you want to be, to reach your dream. It's never going to be easy. It's not supposed to be. But you can make some of those opportunities for yourself. I'm going to finish on this last little anecdote thing, and then I promise my rant will be over. So I know this has been very, very ranty, so I apologize, guys. But look, going back to Aquaman. Now, Aquaman is directed by this Melbourne guy called James Wan. And this is very antithetical to what I'm trying to say here, is that James Wan was born in Kuching in Sarawak. I know where that is because I went there. It's basically where my dad was born. I've been to that town. It is a small kind of like, well, when I mean small, but it is like a small Chinese, Malaysian like city, right? Well, it's not that small. But it is by no means like somewhere where you would think anybody of real prominence would really come from. It's a very humble kind of town. My dad would always tell me about how, like, you know, when he was growing up in Malaysia, like, they were just poor, man. Like, it's just proper poor. Like, you know, they would sleep 8 people would sleep in one room. Like, the whole family would sleep in one room. Like, that's how poor they were, man. And then my grandfather used to drive a truck, and my grandmother would basically like get in order to make money for the family, they would buy a small pig, raise it, grow it up into a full adult-sized piglet, and grow it into a pig, and then sell it off. That's how they would have to make money back in those days. I mean, it was fairly subsistence, and my dad would pull himself up by his bootstraps and get himself to Australia. And what I mean by that, that's kind of a very basically the origin story of my dad is that he was him and his brothers had decided, well, they're going to get out of Malaysia, and they thought, okay, we're going to go to New Zealand and study. And so the first brother, I think the eldest brother, they all saved enough money to basically send the eldest brother over to New Zealand to study and to work. And as the eldest brother was working, he would send money back to Malaysia to basically get the next brother to come across. And they would keep doing this thing where they would keep sending money back home to get the next brother to come across. The next brother would come across, he would earn money, they would all send money back home, and they would keep going across until eventually they'd all migrated to New Zealand or Australia. And they all got educated, and they all got decent paying jobs, and they all went their separate ways. Most of them live in Australia at the moment. And look, it's they managed to sponsor themselves out of poverty. Nobody gave them a hand up. Nobody gave them a hand out. Anyway, that was a very long tangent to basically say James Wan came from this place, who is now the director of Aquaman. He came to Sydney, which, you know, is a massive leg up to come and live in Australia. Regardless of whether you think Australia is a great place or not, you're here, you're in a good place. So, you know, you've got an opportunity to do whatever you like. And I mean this, like, you can do whatever you like here in Australia. It's pretty great. Anyway, James Wan basically, with a mate of his, made a feature film called, what is it called? Sorry guys, I gotta look up my notes here. I forgot what the name of the movie was called, but it's called Stygian. Anyway, he made his first feature. He won like the Guerrilla Film at the Melbourne Underground Film Festival in 2000. Then him and his mate Lee Warnell basically had an idea for this a really cheap horror film called Saw. So what they did was they spent all the money that they currently had, which wasn't apparently very much, and shot a very small scene. And if for anybody who has seen the movie, the small scene they shot as a sample was the bear trap scene. So They went around to Hollywood, pitching this script and idea, basically door knocking around Hollywood, seeing if anybody would give them money to make the film. And they were all saying, look, we can make this super cheap. James Wan will direct, Lee will act. And eventually somebody just went, all right, let's see how you go. And what was kind of cool and what was really smart about this was that these guys were like, okay, they got to own the franchise, which I heard that somebody was trying to buy the franchise off them, but they got to own the Saw franchise. And obviously there are now like 7 Saw films. So this dude is doing pretty well. But what I'm trying to say, and now this guy, James, he directed Fast and Furious 7, which I thought was one of the better Fast and Furious movies. He directed Insidious. He produces a whole lot of these horror films. I mean, he's Annabelle, if you saw that movie. I think there's a new Jigsaw movie coming out. This guy's done very well for himself, and he's capitalized on the fact that, you know, he just went out there and he hustled, and he managed to get a break. And I'm not saying that these actors who are in Hollywood are not hustling. I'm just saying that everybody is rushing. If everybody is rushing through the same door, if everybody wants to be Insta famous, if everybody wants to be a YouTube celebrity, you got to look for a different door. And what's great about this James Wan story is that he didn't go through the regular doors. He kind of just made his own luck. They didn't pitch directly to studios, and studios were willing to buy the scripts off them. But they kind of did it themselves. They kind of made their own situation occur. And that's what I want to encourage everybody out there is like, don't let people, or don't think that there's only one door to go through. Try and think another way to get into where you want to go to. There's always going to be another opportunity. And if you find that door, if you find that way to get into something, go through that door, do it the best way that you can, and make that opportunity for yourself. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this hasn't been too ranty. It's suddenly turned into like a 30-minute sermon about how to make your own opportunities. But I just wanted to share that because it's been on my mind a lot lately, and I really, really appreciate you guys listening. Anyway, guys, see you next time.